Black Metal lesson number 32. We're going to talk about drum programming a little bit more. It was asked that I go over a video on drum programming, talking about the different drum beats that you can do over a riff. So I have come up with quite a few different drum beats over different sections of the song. So what I'm going to do is play the whole thing for you first, and then I'm going to break down everything that I've done. So let's talk about the guitars first. So we have these fast tremolo picked chords, and this section here is just a harmony, okay? You can do quite a few things with these fast tremolo picked chords. The simple thing is the blast beat. So if you want to keep it super aggressive, if you want the pace of the song to really accelerate, you can do this. So let's break this down. We talked about blast beats in the previous video on drum programming. So when you have these chord changes in a riff, it's quite cool to complement them with crashes and various different crashes. So if we listen back here. So we have a crash here near the hi-hats on the left-hand side. Then we've got a china to add some variation. Then we go back to the same crash for the first bit, because it follows the riffs. You want the drums to work with the guitars. And then we have the big fill here. 2 crashes, snare roll, crashes, then snare and tom roll. These kind of fills are pretty cool because it allows your drummer to take a little bit of a break during the blasts, because he's got, so he just has that little bit of a break in the fill with those crashes. And those crashes follow the da-na-na, but it kind of adds a bit more to it as well. It lets the drums explore itself a bit more. It allows the drummer to kind of show off and just show that they're just killing it. But it's not too intrusive that it takes away from the full arrangement. So these kind of big fills are always cool. You can keep them 4 beats long and even 2 beats long. This one here, I just wanted just some furious, epic big drum fill. Now let's listen to the next section. So it's still the same riff, it just repeats, but we've got a completely different feel. This is when you want to bring down the pace, or if you want something a bit groovier with the drums. These types of drum beats allow more space for lead lines on the guitars, more space for vocals. Even keyboards can work quite nicely with this type of riff. This part here is so critical because it allows a level of intensity while still keeping a groove. We'll talk about this part in a second, but having this feel here, it gives a level of aggression to the listener. It's almost kind of unexpected. And I picked this up from one of my drummers, Scarl. He's a good friend of mine. And he does this a lot. He's like grooving. And it's just a nice way to lead into the next repeat of the riff while still keeping a level of intensity. So I love it. I love these kind of little quick accents. What do you call them, accents? Like these quick little drum parts to just add a bit of aggression. Now instead of finishing with like some epic crazy fill, sometimes it's nice to bring up the pace with a thrash beat than having this small fill going into the next section. Because you've got to think ahead in your songwriting. You've got to think for what works in the part now and what works for the next bit. So let's just have a quick listen to this transition. So we're going to go from the nice quick crashes. Moving on, this is when the harmonies kick in, and we've added this kind of groove with the kicks. You know, we take it down a bit more and we add like a different kind of groove with the kick. This was kind of inspired by the Nick Barker drumming on Kings of the Carnival creation, just really taken back. So instead of like locking in with the guitars, it's kind of like the drums are a bit more independent. But it also allows space for keyboards, vocals, a bass, even if the bass wanted to match the rhythms of the drums. Now I recorded the bass part first, but it's something that can be considered. Again, following that same idea in bringing up the pace with a thrash beat, having this fast snare roll into the next section, but ultimately having this grooving kick pattern. You don't really get it in black metal much. More of a death metal kind of thing, but it's nice to use in black metal because it's different. It gives something a bit more unique to the music. And still having these quick crashes here because it's just a really cool way of adding intensity. I just love it. I'd use it a lot. It's probably worth mentioning the kicks as well. You know, you keep the kicks moving with the drum parts. Pacing is so important. So we have this fill. So before we talk about this groovier section here, this drum fill here is really inspired by Dominator. Because he sometimes does those cool, fast kind of things where he hits the hi-hat, hits the snare, does the tom rolls, does the kick roll, and then back into the hands. It's amazing. And here, this is the perfect example of pace. Just listen to it again. So here, we're building up the intensity of the section, then building up even more, and then taking it to a super extreme level here. So if we listen to this section back to back, it's just gonna become more and more intense and take the listener on a more of a journey, but just through the drums, because the guitars just repeat. Drums provide so much pace, they're so critical to your arrangement and the quality of your song. So now let's talk about groovier sections. Here, I wanted to really strip back the drums, focus a bit more on the guitars. It could be a good idea to match like the kicks with the chugs, like dish, but I wanted something a bit more kind of laid back here, something a bit unconventional. Building up the double kicks is a cool idea as well. You You could even turn all of this into double kicks or add that. So let's just mute the guitars so we can concentrate a bit more on the drum beat. There we go. So maybe that's a bit more fitting. Maybe it works better. But again, this is the glorious thing about drum programming. You could just do whatever you like. And if you don't like it, you can change it very, very quickly. So let's have a listen to this end bit now, the chuggy section. And again, thinking about pace and building up intensity. And then you can see here with the loops, you can just even double up on some of these drum parts, maybe add some different crashes, different fills. It's all down to you. This is just the ideas that I had. This one I want to strip back, and then I was kind of thinking of like heartbeats with this one. And just play around. Like, this is the cool thing about drum programming. You can do lots of things. It's the cool thing about drum programming. You can do lots of things, but ultimately it comes down to what you want. If you want the drums to be more consistent, more just with less like fills and stuff, by all means do it. It's all down to you. But ultimately, the best thing to do is watch drummers, listen to drummers, and have drummers write the drum parts, because usually they do it better than you do.